Hey guys, welcome. It is Kim Howerton, freshly shorn hair, here for my weekly live Q&A. I am somewhat recovered from the cruise and back in the land of the living. And I'm here for your questions. I'm here for whatever you want to talk about. And I'm glad to be able to join you. I can't find my earbuds. They're around here somewhere. I was wearing them earlier, but hopefully the sound is okay that I'm just going direct. Hey, Miriam, good to see ya. Good to be here with everybody. Whenever I get my hair cut, the guy, he's a really good hair cutter, but he like round brushes it. So I'm always like, who is this woman? I just usually let it kind of dry. Yeah, I did, Miriam. I really admire long hair. I love long hair. It just doesn't work for me. I don't have the hair. But my hairdresser has been with me for decades, and he's seen me through the years, and so he knows my hair growth, and he's like, wow, your hair is really much healthier and thicker than it's ever been. So it continues to get better. 10 years ago, I was pretty much very low on hair, very, very low on hair. So I had very thick hair as a child, lost a lot of hair in my teen years due to undiagnosed hypothyroidism and also PCOS. And so by the time I was in my late 30s, I was very low on hair, very, very, very thin, very, very like lots of patches showing on the scalp at the top. I still have like a little bit of a patch in the back where it's a little thinner and you can see my white scalp a little bit, but it was a wig time, honestly, in my late 30s if I didn't do something about it. And now I feel generally pretty good about it. I got a fair amount. You can see. There you go. You can see where my part is. You can see. It's the curse of the very dark hair with a very white scalp that you kind of can see a little scalp at times, but it's a lot better than it was when I thought that I needed a wig. So anyway, not that I'm against wigs. I'm against anything that's makes my life complicated, and a wig felt complicated. Although I see some people, I'm like, that does seem easier. But then it would feel like wearing a hat all the time. Anyway, welcome to Kim's Brain. All right, let's see. What are the questions we got going on here? Jujubee says, I'm removing kale from my hydroponic planter. Ooh, basil. Yum. I love basil. Thanks, Jack. I like it too. Terry says, do you know how I can find a keto sort of doctor in my area of South Florida? So generally speaking, I think one of the better resources for finding keto-friendly doctors might be Diet Doctor, dietdoctor.com. I know they have a service. And then, gosh, what are they called? They're like SM something something. Miriam, do you remember? It's Low Carb USA changed their name to something that has S, that starts with S. It's like a 4-name acronym for anyway, but they have an organization that they're trying to kind of connect people in the low carb world, and I think they have some resources as well. So but Diet Doctor, I know, has a doctor finder. Val says, when I lost my hair from chemo, I just wore hats. Yeah, totally. Lots of men do the hat thing for sure. For sure. So, I think hair is one of those things that as we age, I know a lot of hair thins. Loss of progesterone is definitely one of the causes of thinning hair when we get older as well. So it's just one of those things we have to address. I just did find it interesting that, what is it? 7 years after turning my health around, it's a continual journey. It's not like I turned it around. Like, it's not like I did a 180, I'm turned around, it's totally better. But my health continues to improve year by year by year. So that's kind of awesome. In terms of benefits you might see over time. I have here a pink colored drink. It is vitamin water, raspberry. Raspberry chocolate. It's weird. I but I like it. Anyway, it's zero. It's the zero sugar ones. I think it has 1 gram of carbs for the bottle. It's kind of like a little fresh dessert. I thought it would be terrible. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, sometimes I buy things that I'm like, this might be terrible, but I want to see what it's like. And then I get pleasantly surprised. Sometimes it's better than buying things and thinking, this is going to be awesome. And then it's awful. If you have low expectations, I feel like that sometimes is the winner. Anyway, so there we go. Southern Ketovore says, I haven't lost hair in a while, but I abuse it with bleach. Yeah, you can definitely abuse the hair. You can abuse it for sure. Betsy says, hi, Kim. Did you have a good time on the cruise? I did. I had a great time getting to know people. I had a great time hanging out with people. I also had a lot of thoughts. You guys, it's never simple for me. Everything is complicated. But I had a lot of thoughts on the cruise about watching people eat a lot of garbage. I'm not talking about the keto people. I'm just talking about the cruise in general. And even like the way that I was eating. Like, not that I made a ton of bad choices, but when I was like, sure, I'll take 3 of that when I really needed 1. Why am I doing that? Why is everyone here doing that? Why is this whole cruise eating all these things all the time, right? And so, like, I'm going to offend some of you now because I'm just, be prepared. The food on cruises is not that good. I know some of you might be like, what? I grew up here in Berkeley, California. I am a food snob. I am definitely a snob in the food realm. And like the dining room food, it's good. It's like if I went to a wedding and they served me that food from like a caterer, I'd be like, this is a pretty good group catering situation. If I went to a hotel and I was served that food from the hotel catering, because I have kind of low expectations of most hotel catering, I would be like, this is not bad. But I think a lot of people going on cruises mistake volume for excellence. Is that awful? I don't know if that's awful. Like, so Jack said she saw me sitting in the cafe in deep self-reflection. And what I was doing was I was watching what people were getting at the cafe. So the cafe, excuse me, I've still got like a little tight feeling. The cafe, you can get a coffee, you can get a latte, you can get whatever. And then you can get free pastries, right? So I'm watching people get the free pastries. Now, like, I will admit the servings are actually a reasonable serving size of these pastries. They're not like overly huge ones. So it's like, but people didn't just get 1 piece of cake. They got like 4 pieces of cake for an afternoon snack. I was sitting there at 4:00 in the afternoon. Dinner's in an hour. I'm turning into like the mom who's like, you're going to spoil your dinner. But it's like 4 pieces of cake in the afternoon before you go to dinner, at which you're going to have another couple of pieces of cake and dessert. Like, what? It made me, I was a little anxious the whole time. I was like, what's happened to society? Anyway, that was my experience. Keto Couple Life says, I totally agree. I didn't care for the burger flavor. It's pretty much done with by day 3. Yeah, the burgers just a tip for anyone going on a cruise in the future. Spend the money. I know, but do it. Spend the money. It won't, unless you have a family of 6. Spend the money for the food package, the upgraded food package. What is the upgraded? Like, it's the all dining package where you can go anywhere on the ship for dining. Go to the restaurants. They're better. Instead of getting burgers at the buffet, I can't go to buffets, people. I always overeat at buffets. I can't do it. My eyes are not appropriate for the size of my plate. Instead of going to the buffet for the burgers, because they're full of oatmeal, by the way. There's a Johnny Rockets on most ships where they have real burgers. Obviously, you have to tell them no buns and things like that, but go get the better burgers. Anyway, if I were going on a cruise, that would be my advice. I know it's a splurge, but do it for the better food. And then you're served food. You're served food. You're not going to a buffet. You get the better quality steaks. Go to the steakhouse. You can go to the steakhouse every night. Don't do the Brazilian steakhouse. Not as good. But like the nice steakhouse, like Chops or whatever, do that. That's what I would say. If you're going to spend the money for the cruise, go all in. I would rather, if I were like, hey, I can go on 2 cruises a year, or I can go on 1 cruise a year and upgrade my cruise experience, I would go for the 1 upgraded cruise experience, right? You're right. It might not be oats. It's some type of breaded substance in the burgers. Or you're right. It might be textured soy protein, but it's not pure burger. Problematic. All right. So, Betsy says, I wonder if there's something similar. The more you eat, the cheaper the cruise. The more you eat, the cheaper the cruise. I mean, that's the sunk cost fallacy, right? So people in all-inclusive experiences, right? You're like, well, I pay a flat rate, right? So let's say I pay a flat rate. I'm paying I'm just going to use $1,000. I don't know how much your cruise costs. $1,000. I'm going to pay $1,000 to go on this cruise and have this experience. I'm paying $1,000 if I eat 0 foods, and I'm paying $1,000 if I eat $20,000 worth of food, right? I mean, I'm sorry, 20,000 calories worth of food, right? And probably somebody who grew up with Depression era parents would say, I'm going to take full advantage of the cruise experience and eat as many calories as possible so that I can come off the cruise with as much stored food as possible, and as fat as possible. I want to get as fat as possible, because that's what you're saying, and eat as much as possible so that I can squeeze every ounce of juice out of every penny from this cruise experience. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying when you're saying, I want to take advantage of eating as much as possible on the cruise. And I know, Betsy, I know you weren't saying that. I know you were saying, I wonder if that's what some people think. Absolutely, that's what some people think. But there's a sunk cost fallacy, right? I've spent the money. I might as well get everything I can out of it. Because how many of them, like when they got off the cruise and they've gained the 20 pounds, would say, if I could just pay somebody. Okay. How many of you out there, if you could hand over your life savings, or I don't know, half your life savings, a quarter of your life savings, whatever, is there some amount of money that you would hand it over to just snap your fingers and weigh less? Truth time, everybody. I mean, I would give tens of if I could pick the weight that I want to weigh forever and just pay for it, I would find a way. I would find that money. Right? So it's a disordered thought to think, I want to get the most out of this cruise and eat as much. It's not how it works. But it is the thought that happens in the head of a lot of people. And it's not a good thought. And it even happened to me. I remember on one of the days of the cruise, it was like lunchtime. And I was like, I'm not hungry. But I thought, well, I should go see if something looks good, because I have access to the food. And I had to talk to myself and be like, but you're not hungry. That's dumb. So anyway, there we go. I don't want to be negative. Um, there were absolutely people on the cruise who were like killing it. People who got off the cruise having lost weight, people who got off the cruise having not gained weight, people who got off the cruise just having a fabulous experience. I'm not negative on cruises. I'm just a negative human. I see both sides of things. I'll say it that way. I see the good and the bad. But I did get off very conflicted about cruise experiences for a lot of people. And so ultimately I am like, if you're gonna take a cruise, be prepared that is the equivalent of going to junk food Disneyland. That's kind of, and like, if you don't feel like you can handle that environment, then you should think about that. Jacques. Jack. My non-keto husband was influenced by the low-carb cruise to start removing bread and carbs, even though I have been on this journey for years now. He started the cruise wanting to get the most out of it too. That is super awesome. I love that. I love that that was his experience. It's awesome when you can get an epiphany or a realization about the way you want to live. And when that comes to us, I think that's really good. So I'm super happy to hear that. Val lost weight because she did a lot of walking, swimming, and snorkeling, as you should, right? Like, how do we approach the cruise? What are we looking forward to on the cruise? I think all that matters significantly. Like, if you're looking forward to the experiences, the people you're going to see, the sights you're going to see, the weather you're going to experience, the book you're going to read, all you want to grow your list of all the things that you want that aren't food related. And that's a big benefit. For sure, for sure. So, I'm personally in the middle of a reverse diet. And so that is challenging to my ego, as it were. Anytime you're doing that, it can be super challenging, but it's a necessary step for me right now. So that's where I'm at. Keto Couple says, Val, we did a lot more. We even did the 5K, and then hubby got the crud. Yes, you can still hear the crud in my chest. The crud got passed around a little bit. Anyway, it happens when you're in close proximity to people. I hear there were two versions of the crud going around. Some people seem to get the C word. Some people just got a cold, which is also a C word. I guess there's the 5-letter C word and the 4-letter C word. So it's not necessarily one versus the other, but I've heard of people coming off of it with both. I've sort of just now accepted that anytime I'm in close proximity with a large group of people, I have like a 50-50 chance of catching something. And so my job in the world is simply to stay healthy enough that that won't kill me. So, yeah. I mean, it's the way it goes. Sasha says, I didn't go on a cruise, but my carnivore friends and I went on a 4-day music festival, ended up cheating a bit. We were walking 8 to 12 miles a day. That's a lot. And honestly, a few indulgences in a 4-day period where you're walking 8 to 12 miles is probably not the end of the world. And so I think that sounds awesome. Oh, I see, Val. I was like, oh, Val, that was way back in 1989. Wow, Val, I think it's time for another experience though. But yeah, you can definitely have a great cruise experience. I'm not anti-cruise. I am simply anti anything that is not right for you and not done with your eyes wide open, walking into the experience. So I did a thing today, people. I changed my Instagram handle from the Ketonist to Kim Howerton Health. I did that not because I'm not in support of keto anymore, but because I talk about a lot of things, not just keto. And I'm thinking about that I'm going to also do that here on the Facebook as well. YouTube is already just my name. Honestly, the reason I went with Kim Howerton Health instead of just Kim Howerton is because Kim Howerton was already taken. And I'm talking about health, and that's the thing. So anyway, what do you guys think? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Are you like, that's confusing? Or are you like, yeah, I support that? What I was trying to do was, I get some people when I'm posting something that's like, here is an option of higher protein that might work for some of you, and it has a few more carbs, not a lot, a few more carbs, like from vegetables, from proper human diet foods. And people are like, that's not keto. And I'm like, I can't with the keto police. Anyway, so that was part of it. And I also, I wrote a book about blood labs. What does that have to do with keto? It doesn't have to do with health. So I feel like keto is a very central and important detail to learn about on your health journey. But your health journey might be about a lot more than just being keto. It's about mindset. Like most of the time, I talk about a lot of things. I talk about mindset. I talk about the journey. And so I changed it. So I'm thinking of also changing my, I'm thinking of also changing the podcast name. Tell me what you guys think, because I haven't done it yet. I'm thinking of changing the name to Weighty. 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 As in weighty topics and like things to do with weight. And so what do you think? Do you like that name? Do you think I should keep looking? I'm open. I could just call it Kim Howerton Health too. I'm still researching the podcast name. Currently, the podcast is called Keto Life Support. And then I realized the other day, I've been realizing for a while, I hardly ever talk about keto. I mean, the early episodes are all keto. But now they're like mindset, all that thing. So we'll brainstorm for a little while about the podcast. If you have ideas, let me know. It could just be the Kim Howerton Show. Kim Howerton Health. I don't know. I'm open. We can discuss. But because a lot of the things are related to all right, I'm getting no's on weighty. It's good. See, that's why, I get these thoughts at like 2 a.m. But that's if I didn't want your opinion, I wouldn't ask. So I'm asking. See, I changed my name because I can't ask you if you like my name. I'm stuck with it legally. My name is Kim Howerton. I'm probably not changing that. So I didn't ask about that one. Jujubee. Good call. Good call. All right. KAH. You like it. All right. All right. We're going there. Maybe it's the Kim Howerton Health Show. Oh, weighty sounds like fatty. Okay. I don't like that. Don't like that. All right. So we'll keep rolling on this. Let's see what I'm open to other questions. Margie says, is there such a thing as being too acidic? Okay. So there is this discussion around acidic versus alkaline, right? So what we eat can affect how acidic or how alkaline our urine is. But the good news is what you eat will not change how acidic or alkaline your blood is. That is very tightly controlled. So some people will say things like, oh, meat makes you more acidic, or vegetables make you more alkaline. There's this whole discussion around alkaline water. But ultimately, what I will say is, I think it's much ado about very little. I think ultimately, it's really like, yeah, if you have acidic blood, that real bad, real bad. But your food choices, for the most part, aren't going to make your blood pH level different. That is very tightly controlled, and it has more to do with your overall health picture. So ultimately, I'm not super down with the belief around acidic versus alkaline choices having a huge impact on your ultimate wider health picture. So that's my answer to that. So you say here, would it cause inflammatory responses from using spices? So, if you're having inflammatory responses to the foods that you eat, that likely, I have to turn to cross my legs because my desk is too close to me. And it's a desk from the 1960s, which is shorter than my legs are long. That was information you didn't need to know, but you follow me because I tell you weird things. Okay, so inflammation versus, that. If you have a food intolerance, if you are sensitive to a food, you can absolutely get an inflammatory response from that food. It doesn't really have to do with how acidic or not acidic the food is. It has to do with your body's response to the food specifically. And so if you are noticing a sensitivity to certain spices or ingredients, I would do an elimination diet. So what does that mean? It can look like a variety of ways you can approach that, but you can go really strict, which is to take everything but meat and salt and water out of your diet and then slowly reintroduce. Now, if you're already carnivore, that's going to be much easier than if you're keto, right? Or you can just say, I think that this spice is a problem. I'm going to remove that spice or food or whatever, and then see what happens. And then reintroduce it and see if you feel different with it in your diet versus out of your diet. Do it for 30 days. So take it out for 30 days and then slowly reintroduce it, changing nothing else. That is really the only way to determine if you have a sensitivity to something. A lot of people will try and sell you IgG, IgA testing. They are garbage. Well, they're not garbage, but they're useless in terms of determining if you have a sensitivity. Because if you test positive for IgG antibodies with an IgG test, what it's telling you is that you have IgG antibodies for these foods. But IgG antibodies don't indicate an intolerance. They indicate that your body has been exposed to these foods. So if you eat eggs, you will test positive for IgG antibodies for eggs, which some practitioners will tell you means you shouldn't eat eggs. That is not true. That is actually your body telling you that you've eaten eggs before, which you know. So don't get those tests. Don't bother with those tests. Don't spend your money on those tests. Do an elimination if you think you're having a food sensitivity issue. All right. All things keto with Kelsey. I love the new handle. Obviously, I wasn't thinking about that when I chose mine. Well, Kelsey, it's been many years that I've thought about this. Like, you could just be all the things with Kelsey. I love the keto life support. Honestly, I glean a lot out of it. Well, I appreciate that. Angela says, I went to Cleveland the first week of June, took advice from Kim. The first week was eggs for breakfast, lunch was burgers. Dinner was steak. My family did split flan, truly an egg cluster. Now, flan as a choice is a pretty good one. Flan or a custard versus a baked good. Why is that? Does it still have sugar? Yes. Is it made with milk instead? Yes. But some milk and a little bit of sugar. You don't need a ton of sugar in flan. I mean, obviously the topping will have like a lot of sugar, but it doesn't necessarily, like a custard, in my opinion, is a much better choice if you're trying to stay on the lower carb spectrum than like a piece of chocolate cake, which has sugar and chocolate and, you know, and all the things. So I think that sounds like a pretty good choice. All right, people are liking Kim Howard and Health. Good to know. Good to know. I don't want to lose you guys. I don't want you guys to be like, oh, who is that lady? Anyway, so I'm Kim's round table. Ooh, I gotta get a little round table. Maybe we'll do special round table shows with my other keto friends. Angela said, my daughter-in-law loves the caramel and no regrets. That sounds fabulous. Like I've said before, I think my family has a history. When we go on vacation together or we go out to dinner together, there are like 6 of us at the table and we'll order 2 desserts and we'll just kind of pass them around so everybody can try them, but none of us is eating that much of them and everybody's pretty happy. So, you know, find the pattern that works for you and your family, and that's generally going to be a good thing. Right, people are thumbs up on Kim Howard and Health so far, so we'll think about it. What else is going on in the world? I'm out of topics. What do you guys got? Let me see. Oh, Helene, I've upped my protein on your advice. I feel better. I love that. Aw, Debbie Sue, that's so sweet. You can call yourself anything you want. I'm going to listen to you. Sweet. Thank you so much, Debbie. Nicole said, I think that's a good thing. Awesome. I like it. I like it. Okay, great. Oh, is Dr. Barry here? Hey, Dr. Barry, I missed you. I didn't see you saying hello because I am distracted by life in general. All right. I do need, you know, Betsy, my logo is actually just my name. It's just the Kim Howerton part. So maybe I'll add health to the bottom. Slow night, Jujubee. Yep. Jacqueline says, what am I doing for my reverse diet? So a reverse diet is a period of time of eating more. So I've started just upping the amount of food that I eat. I'm still protein centric. So my diet is highly protein based, but I was finding that I was eating like less and less and less, trying to lose a little bit of weight. And instead of losing weight, I was gaining weight because what I was doing was eating less, eating less, eating less, screw it, eating more. So I was having this sort of like a check mark in terms of calories all the time. It's like, you know what, let's just up the calories so I'm just a little more even and doing well. And so I have been feeling really stable, feeling really, other than being sick for a week, feeling more energetic, feeling happier. So what am I doing in action? So my days tend to look like eggs for breakfast, maybe some bacon or sausage. I just made a quiche. And when I do sausage these days, I do more chicken sausage than pork sausage. Not that I have a problem with pork, but pork sausage is super, super high calorie. And that doesn't work so well for me in terms of the volume of food I like to eat. I'm not against it. I just have like ridiculously low caloric needs. If I were somebody that was a lot more active or just had much better genetics, I would certainly support pork sausage. Then for lunch, I tend to do a really light lunch, but now I do a little bit more. So I'll have some vegetables and a little bit of meat, or maybe I'll do a wrap with like an egg life wrap. Then for dinner, I've been doing a lot of salads, but like kind of big, messy salads. I like odd salads. So like recently I've been having like artichoke hearts of palm, cucumber, and and cauliflower rice, kind of all mixed up. So it's sort of like a Mediterranean kind of salad-y thing. And then with a little bit of like oil and vinegar in it. And then it's almost like the cauliflower rice kind of adds like a tabbouleh like thing to it, with like a big piece of meat. And then for dessert, I have a creamy. I make a creamy. So that's kind of the way that my days have been going in terms of food. And I'm just subtly inching up the calories. And so for me, that means a little more olive oil in my salad, a little more higher fat meat. So instead of like a very lean steak, a slightly higher fat steak, or a little more, like I said, oil in my dressings, a little bit more full fat yogurt instead of lower fat yogurt. So I'm just a little bit more fat in my day. And the idea behind this reverse diet period is not to lose weight. It's to, I know that I did have, and I will potentially gain a little more weight, but it's to sort of stabilize my eating at a higher caloric intake. So then, as I go into my next weight loss phase, I'm set up in a better place so that I can see more weight loss in that next phase. So that's basically what I'm doing with this reverse diet. It's been good for me mentally. It's hard. It's one of the hardest things I do in my whole life, to go through a period where I get in alignment with not trying to lose weight, even though I feel like I would like it if I weighed less. Because you have to get really real with yourself sometimes and stop pretending. So I call it, do you guys know what cosplay is? Have you heard of cosplay? It's short for costume play. And it comes from, like Comic Con, or like these conventions where people will put on a costume and then pretend to be the character, right? So it's like how they have like reenactments of World War II battles where people are in costume. That's cosplay. So you're playing a role, you're playing a person, you're in character in your real life, or in light, or in your experience. And I feel like a lot of times, a lot of us are cosplaying as weight loss, but we're not actually losing weight. We're pretending to do the things that cause weight loss, but we're not really doing the things. But it's very emotionally draining. Anyway, so I don't want to do that anymore. Craig asked, do I fast at all? Not at this time. I mean, I inadvertently intermittent fast, right? So I don't eat after dinner. So that's around 7. And then I tend not to eat until 11 or noon. And so I do have a fairly long overnight digestive rest. I don't snack, so I don't eat between meals most of the time. And then I also, but I don't do longer fasts. Why don't I do longer fasts? Well, the first reason is I have a history of binge eating disorder. And I find when I do longer fasts, I get obsessed with food and I tend to want to binge eat, and damaged thoughts of eating tend to be strong in my brain, and I don't like that. And I don't think fasting is necessary for weight loss, so I choose not to fast. I do think there are a lot of people that do really well with fasting, and I totally support it as a concept. It's just not in my personal book of tricks, because I've tried it in the past and it didn't go well. And I don't think it would go well in my future. And so it's not one of the things that I utilize in my toolbox, because I feel like we all develop our personalized toolbox that works for our car, right? Whatever we drive. You might drive this kind of car, I drive that kind of car, right? And we all have to develop the toolbox that works for us. And fasting is, other than time restricted eating, that's in my toolbox, but long fasts are not in my toolbox. Dennis says, cream cheese is just a little bit of protein and an ocean of healthy fat. I have started buying cream cheese again, which I hadn't bought in a while. So absolutely. Jacqueline says, thanks for explaining that. I'm installed for 1.5 years. So decided to do the BBB and E carnivore challenge in January. And I have now gained 13 pounds when I had hoped to break my stall, but now I gained. Yeah. We're all unique, and BBB and E works fabulous for a lot of people in terms of stalls. And I think it really helps a lot of people find ways of eating that work for them when they're off the rails. I do think it works best for people who are maybe eating sort of more standard, like moving from more of a standard American diet, or maybe moving from like a diet where they're regularly falling off the wagon, regularly eating a lot of carbs, to then move into BBB and E. It can be a godsend. It can be a game changer for those people because it gives them some really like strict boundaries that are also not punitive, right? It's like, eat as much as you want, just eat within these boundaries. And that could be very beneficial for a lot of people. It is not just could, very beneficial for a lot of people, but different strokes for different folks. It's not the thing that helps me lose weight. It's not the thing that helps everyone lose weight. I certainly think it's a great thing to try. I think having my carnivore experience in my past is something I'm really glad that I did and experienced. And I think if you've not done it, it's great to do. But, some people need a custom approach. And so to your question, Jacqueline, do I think some may need a bit of carbs? I don't think that everybody needs carbs. Like, I don't think we don't lose weight through a carb deficiency. I'll say it that way, right? That being said, I love vegetables. I love them. I really like vegetables. And I do better when I can include vegetables in my diet. When I exclude vegetables from my diet, I eat more and potentially gain weight. So what happened over my journey is I got to a place where if I stayed strictly keto, where I stayed higher fat and kept my carbs under 20 grams, I had stopped losing weight and started to actually gain weight when I ate enough that I was satisfied. And then what I actually found is when I included more low calorie, lower carb vegetables, I could lose weight better because I was less hungry. I was more satisfied. So if I had like this much steak versus the same amount of steak plus a big salad, obviously not with a lot of added fat dressing, or else that's not a workable exchange. But let's say that, like, if I had the same amount of steak, but with like a pile of steamed broccoli, the calories were very similar, but I was much more satisfied. And so I started adding more carbs in the form of low calorie, low sugar vegetables. And by having a lot more of those types of carbs than I used to have, I was lower calorie overall and found I lost weight better than when I excluded those things from my diet. Hopefully that makes sense. So I don't think we have a problem where people have a carb deficiency causing weight loss stalls. But I do think that we have a hunger management issue. And for some people, adding in more bulk from vegetables can allow them to turn down the hunger dial so that they can lose weight a little easier. And so that's why I lose weight easier on low carb than on keto. Now, that wasn't true for me 6 years ago. 6 years ago, if I added very many carbs at all, I was hungrier. So we have to be individualized and see what works for us. But now I find eating some lower carb veggies help me feel fuller. So you have to listen to your body, is what I'm telling you. All right. Craig says, I love your answers. You take us to so many different places. it's, it's true. I go all over the place. Joseph says, I like Kim Howard and Health, straightforward and to the point. Thanks, Joseph. I appreciate that. Pepper says, if I break my fast in the morning, I'm hungry the rest of the day. So I have my first meal around noon and then eat 2 meals a day. I'm ketovore and eat 2 large meals and no snacks. That sounds fabulous. You found the pattern that works for you. Bonnie says, I tried just eating meat. I've gained. I'm going to start eating low carb veggies. I thought I'd lose on just meat. Well, we're all individual and we got to find what works for us. And so for me, if I'm like, I didn't get the results I thought I'd get from the experiment I just undertook, right? The experiment you undertook was you had a hypothesis. You said, I think if I just eat meat, I'll see more weight loss. Okay. Then you did the experiment. You tried eating just meat and you found that you did not lose the weight you wanted to. So you're like, great. I had a hypothesis. I did the experiment and I got the outcome and it wasn't what I expected. What will I change for my next experiment? So what I usually do in that case, if I didn't get the outcome I was expecting, is I'll track my macros for a week. So I might continue to eat just the meat the way that I did and get like a snapshot of what that looks like. Or you can do it sort of retroactively, not always as accurate. You can be like, but if like meat's a little easier. If you're like, I ate 2 pounds of hamburger a day, you can do the macros on that. So you know what that looks like. And then you're like, okay, I now see that I was eating an average of 2,000 calories a day from this and that. I'm going to now make an adjustment and add in some lower carb vegetables and maybe see where my hunger takes me. So I'll tell you guys that what happened to me a couple of years ago was Dr. Ken Berry. You may have heard of him. He suggested that I up my protein. So at the time, my protein was probably around 100 grams, and he challenged me to try eating closer to 150 grams of protein. And so I did it, and I found that it was too hard to do eating as high a fat as I had been eating at the time. So what I did is I ate leaner meats so that I could be less full. I could actually get in all that protein. And so my calories went down, because for me to eat up to 150 grams of protein, I had to dial down the fat, and in the exchange, I ended up eating less calories and I started losing weight. And then I reached a point where I was like, I think I need to add in some vegetables because I'm hungry. And I did, and it worked. And so, try something, see how it goes, make an adjustment. You're a scientist. Get you a lab coat, right? Southern Ketovore says, I have the same issue with fasting for too long, stimulating binge behavior. 16 to 18 hours is fine for me, but more can be problematic. Yeah, we got to find what works for us. And you got to be gentle with yourself, right? Those of us that have histories of mental illness, or, call it what you will. I call it mental illness for myself. I definitely have a history of mental illness. I also have a history of an eating disorder. Whether you choose to call that a mental illness or not, feel free to make it work for you. But we have to be gentle with who we are as people, and we have to be kind, and we have to do what ultimately works for us in the long-term outcome, not what works on paper. Sure, not eating for long periods of time will cause more fat loss, but not if it causes compensatory behavior on the far end. I know a lot of people who do a lot of fasting and are nowhere near as thin as you would expect based on the amount of fasting that they do. So fast binge, not a healthy pattern. You don't want the check mark life. All right. Betsy says N equals 1. Absolutely. N equals 1. A sample size of 1. We are all individuals. We are all unique. We are all running our own experiments every day. Some of us are better experimenters than others. And if you're not getting anywhere, it might just be a matter of being a little more organized in your experimentation. What does that mean? Taking better notes, being just a little more accurate. I just got a new kitchen scale because my other kitchen scale kept turning itself on. And I was like, I am going through like a battery a week. So I got one that you can plug into the wall and charge up. So yeah, so we got to get the right tools, do the right things, pay the right amount of attention, and have a good life. That's, it's all in there. All right, guys, that I think will wrap it up for the evening. It was lovely to spend some time with you. I hope you're all doing well. Please don't be a stranger. Let me know if you have any specific topics you would like me to talk about, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bonnie says, I've always had an eating disorder. Got caught up in it. Seems everyone is eating just meat. Yeah, I mean, you got to find the way that works right for your body and manages your eating disorder the way that you feel the sanest. All right. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.